Tonight, the frantic final seconds before a fatal plane crash in country Victoria. Breaking news, Richmond legend Dustin Martin set for a retirement backflip. New tactics on the final day of anti-war protests in the CBD. Exclusive, a Melbourne delivery driver relives his stabbing horror. The hunt for a driver who slammed into a northern suburbs home, then took off. And die-hard Hawks fans given the ultimate gift ahead of tonight's sudden death final.
Live from Melbourne, 7 News with Peter Mitchell starts now.
Good evening. The pilot of a light aircraft has been killed in a crash in the town of Reedsdale, just south of Bendigo. Aviation experts say the plane was equipped with a recovery parachute, which tragically may have been deployed seconds too late.
Just after 12:30 this afternoon, the plane, described as a recreational ultralight aircraft, hit the ground in a sheep paddock on private property and burst into flames. The pilot was the only one on board. The scene shocked aviation experts.
I haven't seen this intensity of destruction. You can see the shape of the aircraft, but the fire has been so intense that would have given nobody a chance of surviving.
Experts believe it was a Cirrus aircraft. It has, as a safety feature, a parachute, which you can see near the plane.
It was definitely deployed because there are reports of a bang, and that would have been the parachute deploying. It wouldn't have been anything else. So the parachute is ballistic, it deploys ballistically, the canister shoots off, the parachute opens, and the aircraft should come to the ground safely. Sadly, in this case, it didn't.
The plane, used for joy flights and private commuter flights, is also known for its speed.
To be safe in this aircraft, you have to be a little better at your flying craft than what you would have had to have been for a slower aircraft like the aircraft that are in flying schools.
The Australian Transport Safety Bureau generally does not investigate accidents involving these sorts of planes, but police will prepare a report for the coroner. Nick McCallum, 7 News.
A Dustin Martin bombshell threatens to overshadow week 2 of the AFL finals, with the Richmond champion poised to join the Gold Coast Suns. Kate Massey has the latest from Punt Road. Kate, Martin shed tears for the Tigers just 20 days ago. Now he's set to join the Suns.
Well, Mitch, retirement doesn't seem to be sitting well for Dustin Martin. He has been in contact with Gold Coast about playing on next season. Now, this comes less than a month after a teary farewell to the Richmond faithful. He is set to reunite with his former coach, Damien Hardwick, which means we may see yet another chapter to an already incredible career.
Yeah, can't say I'm entirely surprised. I mean, the rumour's been going around for quite a while now, most of the season, if not even last season. I just think he was sick of the fishbowl environment in Melbourne and wasn't enjoying it anymore. So if he can...
Now, this is a developing situation, but the 3-time Norm Smith medalist is a free agent, which means he can sign with the Suns, and Richmond can do nothing about it, Mitch.
Kate Massey at Richmond, thank you. Now to tonight's main game, and thousands of die-hard Hawks have headed to Adelaide as their finals hopes go on the line. Our reporters are standing by with inside access to the semi-final showdown. First to Chief Football reporter Mitch Cleary, and Mitch, most of Melbourne is getting behind the Hollywood Hawks.
Peter, it's hard to believe after their recent success they would be the feel-good story of September. Gates are just opening here. More than 10,000 Hawthorn fans expected to make up the sellout of 52,000 here tonight. They've packed out the pubs pre-game and are in full voice this evening. The Hawks daring to dream about a possible spot in the prelim against Sydney. Many making the 8-hour drive across the border with the prices of flights through the roof. So much so, Luke Bruce's former teammates couldn't even access airfares. So they hired their own private jet like rock stars to be here for his 300th game, including Premiership Hawks Liam Shields and Isaac Smith.
Pretty cool experience to come over, close mate, playing his 300th game, and there was no real other way to get over here, to be honest.
To come and support him in a big game for the footy club as well is going to be a super special night.
He's always liked the big stage. You reckon he's got a big one in him tonight?
Yeah, I think he does.
If he gets on.
Peter, in sport, we'll have all the build-up from here at Adelaide Oval, plus the last word from the Hawks camp.
Thanks, Mitch. We'll get back with you soon. Now to Rory Campbell at the Glenferrie Hotel. Rory, pubs in Hawthorn Heartland will be heaving tonight.
Mitch, they're starting to fill up. They're expecting up to 400 here tonight. Glenferrie Road has been draped in brown and gold all week. The Hawks are the only Victorian side in action this weekend, and their flashy style of play makes them an easy side for fans of other clubs to get behind. The only place better than here tonight will be Adelaide Oval, and some fans made the last-minute dash today after an incredible stroke of luck. This is how much finals footy means.
Oh, this is an amazing birthday present, I'll tell you. Oh, this is amazing.
Week in, week out, Andrea Saunders, her sons Reece and Kai and her dad Tom are screaming for the Hawks in the cheer squad, but they couldn't get to Adelaide for tonight's clash with the Power. They thought they'd be watching here on the couch, and that 7 News was visiting to hear from diehard fans who couldn't make the trip. But we had a surprise. The AFL's official airline stepped in. You might have seen a couple of friends from Virgin just here. These are all expenses paid tickets to the game tomorrow to watch Hawthorn play Port Adelaide.
Oh my God! Oh, this is amazing. No, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
This afternoon, they flew out on one of the 8 extra return flights Virgin has put on, jagging a photo with Will Day on the way. Brown and gold streaming down the escalators at Adelaide Airport.
I know Hawks members and fans all around the country, all around the world, are tuned in, excited. The nerves are there.
This modern, magical, brash brand of Hawk signed off on by a club great.
I love them having a good time, and as long as they're winning, I think that's all part of it. So, good luck to them.
Rory Campbell, 7 News.
Melbourne commuters have faced nightmare disruptions on the final day of the Weapons Expo. One activist blocked the King Street Bridge by cementing herself to a car, sparking a 40-minute operation to cut her loose.
On the third day of land forces, the violence eased. The disruption didn't. A 25-year-old activist concreted herself to a station wagon, blocking peak hour traffic. Police rolled the car and her out of the way before cutting the woman free. Other activists soon joined in.
Thank you, comrade.
Out of her concrete cuffs and into police ones. She was taken into custody and wasn't the last.
Just let me go home.
Police were taking no chances outside land forces, making protesters remove face coverings and searching everyone.
What are you reading? Everything in his pockets?
One man was found carrying a large bolt. Another group decided they would bolt from police rather than be searched. Again, Expo delegates had to run the gauntlet. Activists also targeted a Jewish man on his lunch break, chanting all Zionists are terrorists. All Zionists. Despite the violence of some protesters this week, Green Senator David Shoebridge joined them in a show of support today.
One of the Greens' core pillars is peace and non-violence, and we reject violence at protests.
What we see from the Greens addressing the protesters today is licensing that sort of behaviour.
As the Land Forces Weapons Expo comes to a close, the state government is now considering if it will bid to host the next one.
Are we the protest capital of the country?
No, we're the greatest city in the world.
And Ainsley Kosh is outside the convention centre this evening. Ainsley, the protesters changed tactics this afternoon.
Yes, they certainly did, Mitch. As you can see behind me here on Spencer Street, a small group of protesters made their way here this afternoon. Some of them just lit a small bonfire which has been extinguished, and there is still very much a large police presence here in the area just to make sure that things don't turn violent as we've seen in previous days. We know that 11 people were arrested today, some for refusing to be searched, one for possessing a slingshot, and of course those 2 women who cemented themselves to their car earlier this morning. Thankfully, no one has actually been injured today. That's really good news. But certainly Spencer Street here right now still remains closed off to the public. No doubt that will cause headaches for commuters tonight. I'm sure many of them are hoping it will be reopened later this evening, Mitch.
Ainsley Kosh in the city, thank you. Police are hunting a runaway driver accused of fleeing the scene after crashing a stolen car through the front of the home in Rosanna. He was driving along Southern Road before losing control just after 12:30 this morning. 2 people were inside the home at the time but escaped uninjured. Police say the offender fled on foot and was last seen heading towards Waiora Road. Melbourne Airport has finally been given the go-ahead to build its long-awaited 3rd runway. It means more jobs and more flights, but some locals are worried it will also lead to more noise.
After 10 years of hoping, Melbourne Airport has finally landed a 3rd runway.
51,000 jobs, $6 billion a year in economic value, 76 million passengers by 2046.
The $3 billion project, entirely funded by the airport, was approved by the federal government last night.
I was fearing that the Commonwealth's attention would have moved to other jurisdictions that are looking for runway expansion.
The new runway, to be built by 2031, will be parallel to the existing runway, allowing for simultaneous arrivals and departures.
You will see better on-time performance, you will see more consistency in schedules, less cancellations, less disruption with that additional capacity, but also you'll see new entrants, and we've seen that recently with Turkish Airlines.
But it's been long opposed by locals.
When you're asleep and somebody disturbs you, for whatever it is, whether it's aircraft noise or not, how do you feel? And you don't get back to sleep.
Those conditions around noise amelioration, that work now has to be undertaken, particularly around Keilor Park and Bulla.
And while a 3rd runway has been locked in, it won't fast-track a train line to Tullamarine. The Treasury insists there's no bad blood between the state government and Melbourne Airport, but the project's completion date will remain as 2033.
I might have been accused of perhaps going a little bit too far, talking about car parks and not airports. All that's behind us and we need to move on as quickly as we can.
Chanel Vella, 7 News.
A food delivery driver has relived his stabbing horror 2 weeks after a random attack that almost claimed his life. The 35-year-old only moved to Melbourne a few months ago and is now too scared to leave his home.
These scars, a permanent reminder of a ruthless and random attack that's changed Manpreet Singh Sanga's life forever.
I'm feeling mental trauma.
Stabbed 5 times to his stomach, spleen, both sides of his body and throat, leaving him barely able to speak.
Air was coming through and like from here, not getting breathe, anything from here.
The food delivery driver had finished work for the evening and was picking up a pizza for his family in Cranbourne when he was allegedly set upon by 2 women.
They asked me for the car keys and when I gave the car keys, they stabbed me from this side and from this side, and when I do like this, they stabbed me here as well. I just ran away to save my life. That's all I ever remember.
Doctors gave the 35-year-old the all clear to go home on Tuesday after spending the past 16 days critically injured in hospital. He underwent multiple surgeries and was placed on a ventilator. But Mr. Sanga says he owes his life to the strangers who saw what happened and rushed to help.
I really thank them by my heart to save my life, to save my family.
2 women were arrested on the day of the attack and charged with multiple offences, including aggravated carjacking. But to add to the family's pain, they say one of the alleged offenders has already been bailed.
I can't forget this thing. I'm not getting out of this situation.
This will impact you forever.
Yeah.
Cassie Zervos, 7 News.
Overseas, the latest election polls suggest Kamala Harris is carving out a strong lead against Donald Trump after their fiery debate this week. A survey from Reuters Ipsos has Harris leading 47% to 42%. The Republican nominee now ruling out a rematch.
So because we've done 2 debates and because they were successful, there will be no third debate.
Ms Harris says they owe it to the voters to have a third debate. Food manufacturers have been hauled in front of Parliament, grilled over why grocery prices are rising sharply. Executives claim they're under the same inflationary pressure as households.
With the price of cocoa soaring, the cost of living is now hitting shoppers in the sweet tooth.
200% increase in the last 2 years.
Forcing chocolate prices higher and making chocolate bars smaller. Shrinkflation.
The price increases we have reluctantly taken had been necessary to keep our business viable.
Food and groceries, the nation's biggest manufacturing sector, generates $163 billion a year, employing 280,000 people and feeling the cost of living pinch just like shoppers.
Domestic manufacturing is becoming increasingly expensive. Costs of labour, transport, energy, commodities, packaging, warehousing continue to rise.
Food industry turnover increased 11% last year, but profits were down 7%. The biggest factor, energy prices and the huge cost of upgrading equipment to comply with the clean energy transition, leaving food manufacturers crying out for tax breaks.
We urgently need targeted capital investment incentives.
Their energy bills up 30% in 5 years.
It shows the challenge in a global energy market with energy prices up in every country in the world.
The ideological approach that the government has taken to energy, and particularly around gas, has seen energy prices soar.
Chris Bowen insisting the best way to get energy prices down is to continue building renewables up. Mark Riley, 7 News.
Victoria gets its chance to welcome home our Olympians and Paralympians tomorrow afternoon with a family-friendly event at Melbourne Park Oval. But Sydney's party fell flat today with no gold medalists attending and only a small crowd at Darling Harbour. Tim's along now to preview sport, and Tim, Adelaide Oval is filling up fast.
It is. Mitch will head back inside the ground shortly to speak with Jai Newcombe ahead of tonight's clash with the Power as the Swans keep a keen eye on the Hollywood Hawks in preparation for next week's preliminary final. Also ahead, Carlton sacks 5 players after their finals heartbreak, plus a superstar Blue heads in for surgery, and the Aussies in the box seat at the Davis Cup. Mitch, that's all coming up shortly.
Thank you, Tim. We'll see you then. Next, it's a case of third time unlucky for the owners of a small business in Glenroy after a shock late-night shooting. Also ahead on 7 News, crash chaos in Melbourne's southeast. The bitter political fight over Australia's war crimes scandal. Later, how footy champions are bonding over cancer-busting treatment. Also, the tech billionaire who's just pulled off the first private spacewalk. A Jeep driver has been taught a tough lesson after being T-boned while making a right turn in Melbourne's southeast. The driver pushed out into oncoming traffic without being able to see into the far lane. It happened at the intersection of North Road and Guest Road in Oakley last Monday. Gunmen are on the run after a drive-by shooting at a tobacco store in Melbourne's north. It's the third time in 4 months the shop has been targeted as part of a bitter underworld battle for supremacy.
A fresh underworld hit as a Glenroy cigarette store and luxury vehicle are peppered with bullets.
Oh, it's just
another day in Glenroy.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's happening every week. I shop here, I shop there.
At least 5 shots were fired from the driver's side window of a dark-coloured sedan around 11:30. A group was inside at the time but left before police arrived. Security footage seen by 7 News shows the cars circling the block in the moments leading up to the drive-by shooting. Police testing a series of bullet casings on the ground.
You can't even walk the streets anymore because you've got to be worried what's going to happen, you know. It's just sad.
It's the third time the business has been targeted in 4 months as part of the ongoing illicit tobacco turf war. It was first firebombed in May, and last month the van was doused with accelerant and set alight. Lunar Task Force detectives have so far investigated 98 tobacco store fires linked to organised crime syndicates.
A lot of this stuff has to stop, really. Yeah, a lot of it. There's just too much stuff going on. It's just getting really bad.
The gunman remains on the run. Geordie Wright, 7 News.
A war of words has erupted over Labor's decision to strip soldiers of their army medals over alleged unlawful killings in Afghanistan. Opposition leader Peter Dutton says high-ranking officers were protected while diggers were thrown under the bus.
Her arm cemented to her car, a protester blocks the entrance to Melbourne's Kingsway Bridge. Police forced to chisel her free. A new tactic in the picket against the Land Forces weapons fair.
The equipment which our soldiers need to do their job to keep Australians safe.
As the opposition leader accuses Richard Marles of keeping senior military leaders safe from scrutiny. Only stripping war medals from a handful of SAS commanders found by the Brereton inquiry to bear moral command responsibility for war crimes in Afghanistan, allegedly committed by soldiers under their command.
Why is it okay to throw sort of lower ranked diggers under the bus, but those who are higher up the chain avoid any scrutiny?
The absolute hide of Peter Dutton. Most of these war crimes happened when he was a senior minister and he did nothing.
He suspended the decision making in relation to command accountability. Difficult decisions require leadership.
But the Greens spokesman says allowing senior ADF leadership to retain their medals is a disgrace. Mr Shoebridge is also questioning whether any of the soldiers actually accused of committing the war crimes will ever face prosecution.
It's almost as though the defence establishment in Australia set up a system that will never hold people to account.
Rob Scott, 7 News.
Qantas has hiked fees for changing or cancelling domestic flights for the first time in 7 years. From next month, travellers will now fork out $119 to update or cancel a booking instead of $99 across a range of fare types. The airline made the change quietly, updating the frequently asked questions section of its website. Jane Bunn joins us now, and Jane, our Friday certainly was rather grey.
It's mostly cloudy but mostly dry, and while it feels cool, it is nothing on what we'll experience tomorrow. Under that grey, it didn't rise quite as much as expected. We peaked at 15.6 in the city and was 15 to 17 across town. A cold front off the east coast crossed us 2 days ago, and we're still stuck in the cool air in behind it. But there's more. The next set of disturbances are approaching. These in here, and the isobars, these lines, show us that tomorrow's air comes straight up from Antarctica. I'll show you what to expect on our wintry Saturday after sport, Mitch.
Pull out the Ugg boots and woolies. Thank you, Jane. The Western Bulldogs have been rocked by a second historical sex scandal. We'll have the latest next on 7 News. Also ahead, proof that Melbourne's traffic really is the worst in the nation. More than 10 million Americans in the firing line as a hurricane bears down. And relief at last for a man with a piece of Lego stuck up his nose for almost 30 years. Melbourne now officially has the worst traffic in the nation, according to a new report. Leasing company Novated Lease found Melburnians spend 92 hours a year in gridlock, with commuters typically needing 21 minutes to drive 10 kilometres. The congestion cost drivers around $205 worth of petrol annually. In Sydney, commuters spend 10% less time in traffic over the course of a year. The Western Bulldogs are facing a fresh legal battle over alleged abuse by a convicted pedophile who volunteered at the club. The development comes as the Bulldogs fight to quash a multi-million-dollar payout to another child abuse survivor.
Abused from the age of 12, Adam Neal fought for the biggest sex abuse payout in Australian history. Now he's at risk of losing it all. The Western Bulldogs claims the jury got it wrong when they found the club turned a blind eye in the 80s and 90s, failing to protect him from Graham Hobbs, a club fundraising volunteer and convicted pedophile. The Bulldogs want the entire case overturned, arguing they bear no responsibility for the abuse Mr Neil endured, and the $5.9 million payout was excessive. It comes as the Bulldogs face another fresh claim, a second survivor alleging he was abused by the same man after meeting him at Western Oval. The club says they intend to defend the new claim and are treating the allegations with the utmost seriousness and care. Hobbs pleaded guilty to sexually abusing Mr Neil in 1994. He spent just over a year in jail and died in 2009.
Whatever the outcome of the appeal, it will have major ramifications on the new case, expected to head to trial late next year.
The judges reserved their decision. Rochelle Brown, 7 News.
More than 10 million people are under a major flood alert as Hurricane Francine barrels across the US state of Louisiana. Packing winds of more than 150 kilometres per hour, it tore roofs off buildings and left streets flooded. It's now weakened to a tropical storm as it makes its way inland to Mississippi and Tennessee. Hundreds of thousands of homes are without power. It's a war that has been going more than 2 years, but the situation in Ukraine is poised at a pivotal moment. Western leaders are about to decide if its weapons can be used deep inside Russian territory. But Vladimir Putin says such action would bring swift retribution.
Another night of relentless drone attacks in northern Ukraine left this town battered with dozens injured. And in the east, Russian artillery did this. Red Cross vehicles targeted and 3 workers killed. Ukraine is desperate to use long-range Western-supplied missiles inside Russian territory. Right now, the UK and US haven't given that permission.
We are still waiting for your permission. You know about it, I think, something.
Why do you need it so badly?
We need to survive.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is en route to Washington to discuss the issue with President Biden. But it would be a major escalation, one the Russian president says he won't tolerate. This will mean that NATO countries, the United States and European countries are fighting Russia, he warns, threatening a wider war with deadly consequences. In London, Joel Dry, 7 News.
An American man got the shock of his life after a piece of Lego lodged in his nose for nearly 3 decades finally came loose.
I had the greatest idea to take one of those little dot Legos and, I don't know, I just thought maybe I could just stick it in my nose. I was going to stick the Lego man up my nose and try to connect the piece on the top of the head, like a little hat.
After 26 years of sinus problems, he's finally breathing easy again. 2 footy champions are opening up on their cancer battles. Next, the drug trial that's given Robert Walls and Jared Ruffhead a second chance at life. Also ahead on 7 News, a fire fright in Melbourne's northern suburbs. The tech billionaire who's just completed the first private spacewalk. And in sport with Tim, Carlton cuts 5 players. Also, we're live for the finals teams ahead of tonight's Hawks Power semi-final. Fire crews have rushed to extinguish a blaze in a Glenroy garage. Emergency crews arrived around 9 p.m, finding thick smoke pouring from the back of the property. The fire was brought under control a short time later. No one was injured. Footy champions Jared Ruffhead and Robert Walls are bonding over their cancer battles. Both beat the odds and say clinical trials saved their lives.
He's laughing now.
I had a punch biopsy on a Friday afternoon, played the Saturday. We beat Essendon and then
But in his darkest moments, Jared Ruffhead feared cancer could rip his life away when the melanoma on his lips spread to his lungs. Doctors told him his best chance was a new treatment on a clinical trial.
Do you think it saved your life?
Oh yeah, it definitely has for sure.
Fellow AFL legend Robert Walls is now following in the Hawks' footsteps after doctors diagnosed him with rare acute lymphoblastic leukemia, giving him just 3 months to live.
It was a shock. I guess I thought, my turn.
That was a year ago. The 74-year-old is also being treated with new drugs under a clinical trial.
I am in remission, which I'm very grateful for.
Clinical trials are now worth $1.6 billion to Australian healthcare. Funding is always a challenge. The federal government will invest $80 million this year.
It's the only way we get medicines and vaccines to the market.
Behind the doors at one of the world's pharmaceutical giants, Australia's leading medical minds, intent on curing our biggest killers. 2 years on from his myeloma diagnosis, Sandy Roberts is also in remission.
Drugs have made an extraordinary difference. I'm still here, Christy.
There are some risks and not all patients meet the criteria. Others walk away through fear of the unknown.
There are absolutely the correct hurdles in place.
GSK is recruiting patients for 105 clinical trials at the moment. Across the board, there are almost 8,500 registered in Australia this year. The studies cover a wide variety of conditions in addition to cancer, including Alzheimer's, lupus and kidney disease.
They're doing it for our children and their children's children. So it's the future.
Christy Mayer, 7 News.
Melbourne is about to open the doors to the city's first new museum in a quarter of a century. It's set to feature a mix of art and science with plenty of interactive adventures for kids, just in time for the school holidays. We'll show you what's on show after sport. An American billionaire has just completed the first ever commercial spacewalk alongside a crew of civilian astronauts. It's being described as a giant leap for privately funded travel to outer space.
This is the moment tech entrepreneur Jared Isaacman made history. The first civilian astronaut venturing into the vastness of space.
Back at home, we all have a lot of work to do, but from here, Earth sure looks like a perfect world.
The billionaire taking in the views of Earth, passing by 720 kilometres below. The spacecraft he travelled in doesn't have an airlock.
Turning the crank.
So the crew had to decompress and open the entire capsule.
TV1, you are go for manual hatch open.
Exposing all 4 crew members to the vacuum of space, but only 2 travelled out. Engineer Sarah Gillis, second to go. The private astronaut bending and stretching, testing the new suit.
Be able to stabilise my body with single-hand disturbances.
An oxygen line tethered to the suit, stopping her from floating away.
We haven't had a new spacesuit in over 40 years. So all the latest technology since then integrated into a new tech suit.
It's hoped it will be used for potential future missions to the Moon and Mars. In the United States, Miley Hogan, 7 News.
Down here on the ground, Tim has sport next, and Tim, Port has made some power moves ahead of tonight's match against Hawthorn.
They have. They'll be looking to find plenty of space tonight too. Ken Hinkley is throwing everything at taming the Hollywood Hawks, but there is a late curveball. Up next, we speak with Jai Newcombe as the clock ticks down to tonight's semi-final. Charlie Curnow reveals his surprise at being sent for surgery as the Blues sack 5 players. Hear from Tom Papley on the biggest threat to the Swans' grand final hopes and the Aussie domination at the Davis Cup. Welcome back. It's do or die for the Hawks at the Adelaide Oval tonight. Return to Chief Football Reporter Mitch Cleary. And Mitch, the final teams are in.
And Tim, there's a big late change for the Power. Charlie Dixon is out. He's replaced by Will Lorenz for his second game. He's the grandson of Hawthorn Premiership captain Graham Arthur. There's no late changes at Hawthorn. Luke Bruce is the sub. He was joined by his family pre-match tonight. His 300th game, the 9th Hawk to that milestone. The Hawks trying to make it 13 wins from their last 15 games, an incredible run since they coughed up a 7-goal lead here against the Power earlier in the season. Dixon misses out after a pre-match fitness test. The official line, it's illness. Zach Butter's named to play after his rib concern. Now we wait to see if he'll be targeted by the Hawks.
No, I mean, we're aware at their sore. That's not going to change anything that we're looking to do tonight. Obviously, he's an important player for him, but there's plenty more other things that'll be front of mind rather than Zach's ribs.
Do you have to pinch yourself from local footy to VFL and 97,000 last week, now a cutthroat semi-final?
Yeah, a little bit. It's been a pretty cool transition for myself. Last week was a lot of fun, massive crowd, a lot of noise. I mean, it's going to be probably the same here again tonight as well, and I can't imagine too many will be going for us, but really looking forward to that.
And despite a contract for next year, a loss for Ken Hinkley and the Power tonight would mean his future is well and truly up in the air. Tim?
Thanks, Mitch. Carlton has taken a ruthless approach to its latest finals heartbreak. 5 Blues have been delisted as a star forward heads in for surgery.
After a week of reflecting on their finals form, the Blues have taken no time to wield the axe. 5 players cut from the list, including Jack Martin, Caleb Marchbank, David Cunningham, Alex Murkov and Dom Akui.
It's been a bit of a long week, to be honest. We've had a lot of meetings. We had to do our exit meetings. It's always a tough time of the year. You get to see good friends leave.
No surprises. Charlie Curnow will have surgery on the ankle that sidelined him for the back end of the year.
I never thought you could probably have surgery from a few rolled ankles, so that was a bit of a shock.
The club hopeful he'll be ready to go when pre-season begins in December. Premiership's extremely hard to come by, especially from the bottom half of the 8. But if there's one man who has the experience to help get Brisbane there, it's Josh Dunkley.
There's so many similarities to what I've felt in 16 and even 21 at the Dogs. We finished 5th that year and went on to make a grand final. So not looking too far ahead, but hopefully, tomorrow night goes well and we can look forward to the next week.
The former Bulldog is in his 2nd season at the Lions. He could be making consecutive grand final appearances.
The way that we've been able to, backs against the wall early this year when we weren't playing such good footy, we really embraced that challenge.
With the week off, the Swans will be glued to the TV tonight to watch the Showtime Hawks, especially Jack Ginnivan.
He's good for the game, he's a character. I love watching them, to be honest. As a small forward, you love seeing good small forwards go about it. Ginnivan and the Wizard and Moore and the like, so they're very dangerous.
Kate Massey, 7 News.
Spring racing heats up at Flemington tomorrow. Here's Bruce McAvaney with his pick of the action.
Tomorrow's Makybe Diva Stakes is an absolute classic. It's headed by the Cox Plate favourite Via Sistina. She must be good because J-Mac's given up so many good rides in Sydney to come down to Flemington to sit on her back. She cost her owners $5 million late last year and she's won 2 Group 1 since arriving in Australia. She takes on last year's winner Mr Brightside. He's in good form, and the mighty mare, Pride of Jenny. She didn't fire first up. How big a lead will she get and can she bounce back? Makybe Diva's going to be on course. 26 years of age, back to Flemington, where she went from champion to legend when she won that 3rd Melbourne Cup. In Sydney, great horses left, right and centre. None bigger or better than Storm Boy, the favourite for Gay Waterhouse in the Run to the Rose. It's been a spring a bit like the footy, full of upsets and plenty of great stories. Can't wait to get out there.
And good luck to everyone. Australia is 2 from 2 in the Davis Cup. Tanasi Kokonakis led the charge as the Aussies demolished Czechia 3-0. The 28-year-old powered past teen Jacob Mensik in 3 sets.
Victory for Kokonakis. A first win for his nation.
Alexei Popyrin's opponent, Thomas Makak, retired hurt 8 minutes into their match, while Matthew Ebden and Max Purcell easily won their doubles clash. I don't think it's going to be easy for anyone tonight, Mitch. I think the Hawks.
Yes, I think it'd be great to see
Not
the
with
Hawks.
a lot of confidence,
Hawks
but the
get up.
Hawks.
They're playing really well at the moment. Thank you, Tim. Melbourne is about to throw open its doors to a new museum for the first time in 25 years. The National Communication Museum promises a trip down memory lane and a glimpse into the future, just in time for the school holidays.
Step inside the new National Communication Museum and be transported back in time.
It will be 1:42 and 10 seconds.
From exhibits featuring quirky old familiar faces to the technology which has changed our lives.
What is the cloud? Where is the cloud? Well, the cloud's actually under the ocean and not many people know about that. You know, is my fridge listening to me?
The collection spans decades and boasts old spyware, including a rare Enigma machine, along with the latest gadgets to block facial recognition.
Emily, these computers are taking me back. Tell me about this room. Well, we've transported audiences to our circa 1995 cyber cafe.
It really answers the questions that we all have about technology and possibly too afraid to ask.
You can even try your hand at Morse code with a modern twist.
I hear this one is going to be a hit with the kids. Absolutely. This is really one of those intergenerational moments where we're dealing with Morse code, but inspired by Guitar Hero.
There's also a special area for kids to play and put their code-breaking skills to the test. Whether your calling is to take a trip down memory lane or to learn about the very latest in cutting-edge technologies, this museum has something for everyone.
Grandparents can bring their grandchildren in and show them the type of technology that they used, but grandchildren can also show their grandparents what kind of technology they're using.
The doors open September 21. Christy Mayer, 7 News.
The old Bakelite phone. Jane's back now with the forecast. And Jane, it sounds like we're heading into a wintry weekend.
It's a proper cold. Tomorrow is bitter and only slightly improves on Sunday. And on tonight's bright side, the neighbourhood heroes guiding a feathery flock to safety. Hello again. It may be spring, but are you ready for winter? Yesterday was 14. Today reached 15.6. Tomorrow will be much colder. Today's grey with just the occasional sunny pocket. Further afield, we experience frost in Witcherproof in the Mallee and a rather striking aurora, seen in clear patches in the south as far north as Myrtleford in the state's northeast. Cloud thickened over much of southern Victoria, but it barely made it north of the Divide. -1 overnight in Hopeton was the same as Mount Buller. We're in a break today, but the next weather system is approaching. When we have a high located well south of Perth, you know that it's about to turn freezing. That angles the front to bring air up from near Antarctica. It begins late tonight with showers reaching the coast, spreading across the south tomorrow. We're looking at snow lowering to around 500 metres, with wintry hail for the rest of us. But the rain doesn't spread anywhere north of the Divide. This is just how cold it'll be. Chilly blues all through here. That is single digits. And this is 4 in the afternoon, traditionally the warmest part of the day. The north misses the rain and the worst of the chill, but we'll see widespread frost out there by Sunday morning. Around the nation tomorrow, mild to our north. The colder air spreads through later on Saturday into Sunday. Hobart has snow as low as 200 metres in the morning. That'll be some suburbs. Adelaide misses the wet weather. Perth is warm on the other side of the high. To Victoria, frost in the northeast valleys, that's all tomorrow, then dry but cold north of the Divide. Widespread showers in the south, wintry hail and rumbles of thunder. Snow is possible as low as 500 metres in the far south, about 800 metres on the Great Divide. It is cold in southwesterly winds, gusty in the south. Cold, wet and windy enough for a sheep graziers alert. That's across the south and ranges. Closer in, what a day. Showers streaming through. Gusty cold winds, wintry hail in the showers, rumbles of thunder. These maximums are the peak. The city's just 12. It'll be 9 or 10 for much of the time, feeling literally freezing. Gusty, wintry showers finally ease into a chilly but dry Saturday night. To the 8-day outlook. Sunday, all dry, even a fair bit of sunshine, but the cold air is with us. 13. More showers through next week. A wintry Saturday, lots of showers, gusty winds, hail and thunder. Rug up. Now for tonight's bright side. This is one group of very lucky ducks. A team of Surf Coast locals proving not all heroes wear capes after they rescued the feathery flock lost in Ocean Grove. Under a watchful eye, they waddled through a local primary school, crossing basketball courts and busy roads, escorted for over a kilometre before finally reaching a lake safe and sound.
It's just pure joy in our hearts, and it just bonded us all together as neighbours. It was just wonderful.
It's some great teamwork there by everyone involved.
Yeah, bonded them together. Thank you, Jane. And that's the way it is this Friday, the 13th of September. Thanks for your company. We're heading straight to the Adelaide Oval now as the Hawks take on the Power. For now, from the 7 News team, good night.
The 7 News app will give you the news you want every minute of every day, including breaking news alerts. Download the 7 News app now.